So, have you ever noticed this? When you look at members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you often see a certain pattern: a high level of education, stable families, and, a real sense of financial self-sufficiency. It's something you can actually see, and it raises a pretty fascinating question.
So what's the deal? Why does this particular group seem to cultivate stability and, well, success so consistently? It's an observation that leads a lot of people to a very common, but as we're about to see, a totally mistaken assumption.
The go-to explanation, the easy answer, is to just assume the church teaches some version of the prosperity gospel. The idea that faith and being righteous is like a direct transaction for getting wealthy and famous. But the actual doctrine tells a completely different and, frankly, way more interesting story.
All right, let's just dive right in and tackle this myth head on. Is getting rich really the goal here? Is having a big bank account a sign that you're in God's good graces, according to Latter-day Saint belief? The short answer, a big, clear no. So check this out. This slide really lays it all out, drawing a sharp line between two totally different ways of seeing the world. On one side, you've got prosperity theology, where the idea is that your belief itself should create wealth. But over here, in the restored gospel, it's about how making covenants with God creates an ordered life. The whole focus shifts. It's not about wealth signaling that you're divinely favored. It's about building a unified community they call Zion. The goal isn't piling up riches, it's just sufficiency, having enough for your needs. And this quote from the Book of Mormon just cuts right to the heart of it, completely blowing up any idea of a class system. The doctrine teaches that every single person, rich or poor, is on the exact same footing before God. No VIP section, no spiritual bonus points for high income. This idea is absolutely central to understanding everything that comes next.
Okay, so if it's not a prosperity gospel, then what in the world is going on? Well, that brings us to the real mechanism at play here, the idea of success as a byproduct.
Think of it like this, okay? An elite athlete. What's their goal? To win the championship, right? To get that trophy. Now, they might end up with a killer six-pack from all the training, but was that ever the point? No way. The six-pack is just a byproduct of the real work, and that's the exact same logic we're talking about here. And that is the absolute key right here. The observable success, the financial stability, the education. That's not the purpose of the faith. It's the unintended but often inevitable result of living a certain way. It's the byproduct of discipleship. All right, so let's pop the hood on this thing. How does this engine of discipleship actually work in the real world? What are the nuts and bolts that produce these byproducts of stability and opportunity? It really boils down to three main pillars that all work together. You've got a lifestyle based on covenants, a culture that is just passionate about learning, and a community support system that's frankly incredible. Let's dig into each one. So first up, that covenant lifestyle. This is all about living by certain principles that just naturally create order in your life. Take the health code, the word of wisdom. It's designed to keep your body and mind clear. The law of chastity, that's about building strong, stable families that can last for generations. Honesty, that's the currency of trust in any economy. And paying tithing, it's not just about money. It teaches you how to be disciplined with your resources. See? None of these are a get-rich-quick scheme. But when you put them all together, they create a life pattern that just happens to be really stable. Okay, pillar number 2 is something I call unintentional executive training. And this is fascinating. Members are constantly being asked to take on these volunteer roles or callings. So one day you're leading a youth group and bam, you're learning project management and how to handle a budget. The next, you're teaching a class and suddenly your public speaking skills are getting sharp. You learn to work out conflicts in committees. You develop real empathy through service. These are all spiritual assignments, but wow, do they translate into killer professional skills? And then there's the third pillar, the community. This is a huge one. It's basically a support system by design. Within your local congregation, you're surrounded by this network that's like a built-in extended family. Someone loses their job, people are already networking to help them find a new one. A family has a crisis, you can bet meals are going to show up at their door for a week. It's this web of social capital, this safety net that helps people get through the tough times that might totally wipe someone else out. So, now we see how it all works. We've seen the engine, but that brings us to the biggest, most important question of all. Why? What is the actual point of all this? And to answer that, we have to completely redefine what success even means. So let's do it. Let's redefine success. First, let's be crystal clear about what it is not. It is absolutely not about career prestige. It has nothing to do with climbing the corporate ladder or having a fancy title. And you can bet it's not about your income. I mean, just look at the faith's own foundational figures. Christ was poor. The Apostle Peter was a fisherman. Joseph Smith, the founding prophet, he died in debt. So if wealth isn't the goal, what is? Here it is, the real goal, the true north. Success in this worldview is all about becoming more like Christ. It's about developing character, becoming more patient, more compassionate, more honest, more willing to serve. It's a total transformation on the inside, not about what you collect on the outside. And that personal goal then ripples outward into a massive collective one, building what is called Zion. And listen, this isn't some city paved with gold. Zion is a community that's measured by its qualities, its unity, its commitment to caring for the poor, its selfless service. When those things flourish, yeah, stability and prosperity often tag along for the ride, but they are always, always the servant to holiness, never the master.
Which brings us right here to the final, most important takeaway of all. This system isn't designed to make people wealthy. It's designed to make them selfless, disciplined, and united. It's designed to produce Zion people. And it's that very process, that pursuit, that paradoxically builds the kind of lives that the world often calls successful. So the real question this leaves us with is, how might our own definition of success change if we saw it not as the goal, but as the byproduct of a well-lived life?